down quite considerably, I think down to about 16 hours now, so slightly more manageable, but still an incredibly long wait for people, and yet they don't seem daunted at all.
No, I mean, 16 hours is still very long, isn't it, Ben? Especially when you have to go through the night and it's cold. And it was interesting hearing what people are wrapping up in. They're bringing their coats, they're bringing socks, they're bringing anything they can to get them through the night. But I have to say, the mood is very festive here. You've got kids I'm watching with their parents, you've got elderly people. Certainly no one seems to be deterred by the fact that it is taking so long. I'm joined now by somebody who's been involved in some of the planning around the funeral, who can talk to us a little bit about that and his own relationship with the Queen, and that is Lieutenant General Sir Andrew Gregory. Thank you very much for joining us, Sir Andrew. First of all, you have known the Queen for a long time because you're involved in a charity that she has been associated with since she was a child.
I am. SSAFA, the Armed Forces charity. So I'll just give you a tiny history about it. It was established in 1885 to look after families when soldiers went overseas, and out of it came the Soldiers and Sailors Families Association. And 137 years later, the Soldiers, Sailors, Airmen and Families Association, SSAFA, the Armed Forces charity, looks after about 80,000 people each year. And Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth was our patron since 1952, but her work started long before that. When she was a teenager with Princess Margaret, they delivered honey from their hives to SSAFA children's homes, and much more, including donating gifts from her wedding to Prince Philip. So a long, long association.
And you have met her several times.
I've had the great honour of meeting Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. I've had audiences with her in Buckingham Palace.
Were you nervous beforehand?
Unbelievably nervous.
I'm glad you admit it.
Oh, unbelievably. I mean, it's such a privilege, and you think of the messages you want to get across to this quite extraordinary individual. And I was there to talk both about the charity and another role I have as the head of the Royal Artillery, the Master Gunner St James's Park, where Her Majesty was our Captain General. And she has knowledge about these organisations and the ability to provide perceptive insights that are wonderful and remarkable.
I think we've got a photograph, I hope we can show that, of a time when you were with Her Majesty driving around, is it Hyde Park?
It was Hyde Park.
And it was in about 2017, and you are...
So it was a very special day. It was the 24th of October 2017, and Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth came to inspect the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery. And the date is important because 70 years previously, exactly 70 years, her father, King George VI, had inspected what were then called the riding troop. And at the end of his visit, when asked to sign the visitor's book, he crossed out the word riding and wrote Kings. And that is why they are called the King's Troop. And they have obviously been heavily involved, firing salutes, and had the honour of providing the gun carriage that moved Her Majesty.
It looks like she was thoroughly enjoying herself.
She was fantastic, and on the way back to the saluting dais, we were driving across a slightly bumpy Hyde Park, and she said, "What causes all this, and is it people playing football?" And I said, "Mum, I blame the Household Cavalry Regiment," because she likes a bit of banter between her military units.
She liked a little bit of that competition. You will also be attending the funeral on Monday. Can you tell us about the capacity that you'll be there in?
So I will be there as the Master Gunner St James's Park, the head of the Royal Artillery, and I had the privilege of being in Westminster Abbey and then marching in the procession along with other regiments and corps who had a close affiliation with Her Majesty. And also in the Abbey we will have our national chairman to represent SSAFA, the Armed Forces charity. A huge honour, a very sad day, and a day we all want to do our very best for Her Majesty and indeed for the King.
But I can imagine, having met her several times as you had and appreciating her, you wouldn't want to be anywhere else on Monday.
I wouldn't, and I have a challenging personal clash, but I would not be anywhere else. It is very important. She, for 70 years, served this nation selflessly, putting everything before herself. That is what I must do too.
Okay, Sir Andrew Gregory, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. Well, officials have warned they could be forced to close the queue again to see the Queen lying in state if it reaches capacity later on today. Thousands have been waiting, as we said, patiently for hours to pay their respects. Waiting time, 16 and a half hours.